We're back for our fourth conversation with Peter James and myself, Lisa Withrow. And we've been talking a bit about how to adjust to forced change, a change that has been put upon us. And for this conversation, we're going to engage imagination a little bit. And then in our fifth conversation, how we can move forward with imagination. So we're starting today, Peter, with a sense of how when we go online, we tend to move into tactical ways of functioning, how to get the job done, how to function best. And oftentimes the sense of experimentation with ideas and solving meaningful problems goes by the wayside because we have a deadline and we have to get things done and we have to do it well. So one of the things that I think about when I think about imagination is finding a way to live into experiment and questions in conversation with other people who are in the same boat that I'm in, and to create a narrative or a story in which we all are moving together and reflecting together. So to create imagination about how education works these days, it takes a little time. It takes backing up. And as my coach self says, raising awareness about the frustrations as well as the possibilities, but in conversation together. What are you thinking about in terms of imagination?
Yeah, that's what a great topic, first of all, about imagination and the possibilities. So it's ironic, I'm reading a book right now called The Art of Possibility.
Yeah.
And I think imagination falls in that realm. So going back to piggybacking on what you said there, Lisa, about, surrounding yourself with others, networking with your colleagues in order to collaborate and brainstorm about options for the future, ideas for the future, doing your fair share of reading in order to hear ideas or read about ideas, about, that may be possible for your class that you may not have thought of, or may be possible for your institution that you may never thought of. And now this collaboration, this research, this consistent reaching out for other ideas allows you to think about ways for your class or for your institution that you may not have thought about before and implement them. And now combined with your own ideas, it becomes magical, for lack of a better word. So I'm a big proponent of, if your brain can think it, it can be done. Now it's just a matter of what are the reverse engineering or the backward steps to put it into place. And I think that's what this, from my perspective, that's what this whole imagination topic revolves around, not even just in times like these, but just in general, So that's my initial thoughts as it relates to that there, Lisa.
Yeah, I like the reverse engineering concept. For me, imagination is trying to invite people into a particular kind of story, and with learning, even making math interesting involves a story about why math is important, or this particular novel, or a way of thinking about various theories. And so imagination is mostly fostered in conversation, as we both said, but sometimes it can happen in the shower or when we're going for a walk. Ideas rise. And so as a coach, I think about education, and I think about people who are teaching. And one of our jobs as coaches is to raise awareness, and raising awareness requires that we imagine something that we hadn't been thinking about before or feeling before, that comes out of our bodies and moves into our minds, so that we're aware of something new and challenging, and perhaps a problem to be solved, or an idea or an adventure to encounter. You said the word magic. I like that word. The adventure to be encountered can be really magical or really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah.
So once we get that awareness going, we have a chance to mobilize into a plan and into action.
And I love the magical, I love that word, because it is to a certain extent. And we don't like to we oftentimes, especially in academia, we don't like to sit in the in the air, in the aura of magical, of imagination. We want to be very methodical all the
Yes.
time. And
Tactical, yeah.
yeah, one of the and two things that you said really triggered some of the things that I do in my entrepreneurship class. Um, Number one is the storytelling, which
Mm-hmm.
is so important because our when you hear a story, it's almost like you're watching a movie. If you were telling us a story right now, Lisa, I would be going through that whole process. Our mind takes us to that moment, and our mind really can grab hold of a story faster than it can just a non-story type of explanation. The other thing you made me think of is the outside of the box thinking, the magical thinking. I do something that is called a 9 dot exercise in my entrepreneurship class, and ask students to draw 4 lines that are connected with just 9 dots, in just
Mm-hmm.
9 dots. And our minds force us to stay within the 9 dots, almost the tic-tac-toe type of dots. Um, stay in that within those 9 dots. Nothing I have told them was not to step outside of the dots in order to draw those 4 connected lines. But our minds always want to stay within this box.
Right, right.
Imagination allows us to step outside of it and break those barriers, to break the mold, for lack of a better word. There are no rules. There are rules, but some of the times the rules are imagined in our head, and it's important for us to be able to step outside for the benefit of our students, for the benefit of their growth, and even the benefit of their futures overall.
And that's what I love about experiment too. It's the what if question. What if we tried this, or what story makes sense for how we're doing this? How do we stay connected in the midst of distance? How do we manage that paradox? And so these questions are important, and you're right, getting outside of a box is the only way to go right now, even though we feel like we're in a box on the screen right now all the time.
Such a great analogy for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I would also like to kind of take the conversation from a coaching perspective. You know, our responsibility is to ask those powerful questions, those what
Right.
if questions that you just mentioned there, Lisa, to really challenge our client, our coachee to, hey, what would happen if? What would it look like if? Those thinking outside of the box type of questions that you may not have actually thought of before.
Raising the awareness
Yes.
and trying the experiments. Yep, that's what we do. That's what we invite people to do.
Mhm.
Well, I think we have fostered some imagination here. I hope so. And I appreciate the continued conversation that we're having. We'll be moving shortly into our fifth conversation about co-creation out of imagination. And we'll see you then. Thank you.
Awesome. Great talking to you again, Lisa.
Yeah, you too.